How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you back to the Way of the Wolf. Our guest today is Simoriah Stogner. She has 18 years of experience in technology and a beautiful skill set around blending technology with business operations to achieve just incredible results. And bonus, she's also a keynote speaker. So I am thrilled to have her as a guest on the show. Sim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sean. I'm super excited to talk with you about our topics today.
Yeah, we have a handful of really good topics to dive into, but honestly, I want to jump into artificial intelligence. This is something that, over the past 3 to 4 years, we've just seen this explosion of adoption of generative AI and just all sorts of different AI technologies and solutions out there. And so I'm keen to hear what your thoughts are on this and kind of the direction that we're going to see all of this stuff unfold in the future. So let's just start there. What are your thoughts on this just rapid adoption of AI and how companies can really leverage it?
So, I love this question because I have a lot of thoughts. This is a topic we could spend probably a lot of time talking about. So just in general, the idea of AI, I think, is really amazing. It's going to introduce a lot of conveniences to the way that human beings can live and work and play throughout, our life journey and our experiences. And so I think the hype is warranted because there's a emerging technology that is going to be super convenient for everyday people. I don't think you're going to have to be a technologist to understand AI eventually. And then ultimately, it will just be a part of our everyday living experience, especially because so many of us are already what I would coin as technologists. We might not see ourselves as high tech people or necessarily in the professional spaces, but in general, American society, we're using internet connected devices all the time. And so we have to have some sort of at least basic skill set to use and manage those devices that we're wearing. And so I think AI is going to be introduced throughout a lot of these technologies and devices that we're already becoming familiar with. And so the hype is definitely worth what's happening. In regards to some practical uses, I think it's kind of interesting because there's some of the AIs that I would coin as kind of legacy AIs that I would expect them to be further along. For example, Siri. Siri sucks to me, and I can't wait until they refresh the back end of Siri to be ChatGPT. I think the search engine versus reasoning engine that we get with AI technology is just, it's way more fast. And then it's just more natural for how humans want to communicate and interact. And so the search engine stuff that kind of is set up in the Siri or some of these older AIs, I would like to see those become more innovative and more natural for conversation. But do you want to talk about any specific thing about AI? Because, like I said, this is a topic I feel like we can go in all kinds of different ways. But generally, I'm super hyped about AI myself, and I use it every single day in my personal life and in my professional life. I also have a couple of teenage kids that think they literally call me an old head because I pop open AI and I'll start having a conversation with it. And I think that's really interesting because they're a younger generation. And so I think there's this conception that the younger generation is kind of driving the use of some of the emerging technologies. But whenever I actually engage with them, they're like, what are you even talking about? And why are you talking to your phone like that? And so I do feel like those of us that are using it are actually ahead of some of that opinion and some of that perspective. So anything specific?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here and a lot of things that I do want to dive into. But maybe we start off with something simple and basic. And I'm going to put my HR hat on for a little bit here because I have coached and guided and worked with just countless people that are just seemingly struggling with career progression. They just can't quite figure out how to have the right conversation with their boss, or they're just really struggling. Do you have any real world examples of where you've been able to leverage AI to actually help you progress in your career in a meaningful way?
That is such a good question, and thanks for framing it for me to give you something really specific to talk about. And yes, I think this is a really fun story because there's so much power in this AI story. So myself, over the last 5 years, I've been really working hard to develop and to grow and to impact my business and the people in our communities at a greater scale with greater impact and influence. And so all of that, it ended up accumulating to over the past 5 years, my performance reviews and annual reviews have been leading based on the targets being met for the business, the people, and the technology that I lead. And so I felt it was time that 5 years of consistency performing at the level that I'm at, that I needed to advocate for a pay raise and a title change to align to the work that I was actually performing over that 5 year period. But I really did struggle with this. I took multiple approaches with different levels of leadership to just have the conversation, to talk about the accomplishments, to explain the value add to the business and why I was deserving of a review for my title and my job family and my pay. But again, I kept getting no success. They were willing to hear the conversation, but it didn't actually result in the actions that I was looking for and asking for. And so, I thought, well, why am I not getting this right? And something that I'm very aware of is I have the gift of gab, and so I can get really chatty. And as I'm learning, as I'm raking into junior executive ranks in corporate America, I'm learning that the gift of gab isn't necessarily a value add when you're trying to interact with executives. And so I'm learning that my communication style needs some refinement. And I thought, well, let me try AI. Let me see if AI can remove my emotional and sentimental attachments to these accomplishments that I've done for our business and our people and our communities. And maybe that's a way I can talk to them. Because I do know something, even I get uncomfortable when someone has emotions coming out. And whether it's, negative or positive with a little bit of like pride and joy behind it, it can just make people uncomfortable. And so I thought, how do I actually have success with this? So I took my 5 performance reviews and I loaded them up into AI, and I said, I need to have a pay negotiation, and I'd like to have it in a way that I can talk to an executive. And it very quickly spit out 50 words or less. And it highlighted all of my accomplishments in business language. And to me, that's accounting and how does it impact the bottom line. So it really helped me talk to my leadership team in language that made sense to them and that they were able to be very decisive with. And, it didn't have a bunch of human emotion and sentiment behind it. And some people have this idea that AI needs to mature to have the human emotion. In this scenario, disagree, because the AI removing my human emotion actually allowed me to communicate in a way that led me towards the success. And so within a couple of hours of that conversation with the AI generated script, I used that as my guide, and within a few hours, I had success finally. And I got my title change, and I was awarded a nice pay raise to support the work that I had been doing. And I really don't think that I would have had that kind of success in that conversation um, without AI really helping me refine the message. Because, like I said, I went through that conversation a number of times with a lot of different leaders in my leadership pipeline to just kind of strike out each time. They were super willing to hear it out, but it didn't actually end in the result being actionable. But AI really led us to an actionable outcome, and I think that's such a cool use of AI so far. Super useful in regards to that, but I think it's one of the greatest success stories when it comes to the use of AI because of the opinions that emotions need to be built into the AI language.
I appreciate your story, and it is an incredible example of how we can leverage AI to kind of move the needle in the direction that we want to go. But you also said something as you were sharing that story as far as how you yourself can get a little uncomfortable when emotions start coming into the conversation. And I think that highlights the importance of us not being so concerned around, is AI going to take my job, and focusing in on how can I leverage AI to make me and my team better. Now, we have to account for the fact that AI can do a beautiful job of articulating and organizing all of our thoughts, all of the data in a meaningful way. But at the end of the day, you had to have a conversation with another human. Anytime we are communicating with peers or, well, just any other human, yes, we need all the data, we need all the information in a clear and concise way, but humans connect with humans. And I think this is why I am so hyper focused on helping people build and develop communication skills, because you can have all of that knowledge. And yes, that's important, but if you cannot effectively communicate that knowledge and connect with the audience or the person that you are having this conversation with, you're still going to struggle. And that's what's, it's unfortunate and challenging, but I hear all these people that are worried about AI taking their jobs. Like, okay, yes, there will be some jobs that are displaced with AI. That also speaks to the importance of making sure we continue to lean into building and developing our communication skills. And this is something that, as I look around, I see some of the younger generations that have just kind of lived their entire life with their head in their phone, and they struggle with communication. Like I help with career transition coaching with certain executives, but then also I've started working with kids that are coming out of college, and they struggle with the communication side of things. They're very intelligent, but they can't make eye contact to save their life. They stutter, they use filler words and things like that. So yes, AI is a very powerful tool, but we can't neglect focusing on the communication skills and our ability to connect with people on a deeper level.
Yeah, completely agree. 100%.
So let's talk a little bit about, why do you think it is some people are rushing to adopt AI on the forefront, bleeding edge, testing every little new beta version that comes out, and others still haven't even signed up for a free ChatGPT account?
Oh, yeah. That's a really good question. And I have I have a good opinion on that. So here's the thing. The ones that are flocking to it, they're probably creative mindsets. They're probably innovative. They're probably ingenuitive type of humans. And there are those people that exist, and we need them because they're pioneering the future in a lot of ways, and they're going to proof it out and really help us innovate to where the conveniences I spoke about at the beginning of our conversation actually become a way of life. For the ones that are avoiding it, maybe they're not seeing themselves as using technology. Like I said earlier, I do personally see most Americans are technologists. They're just not high tech professionals. Like literally, I have a 1-year-old who can operate an iPad and pop open Netflix and turn on Coco Melon. She's one and she's figuring out technology. And like it's just human capability is phenomenal, and it's a matter of are we willing to expose ourselves, or are we going to be uncomfortable with it and kind of oppress ourselves? The ones that are kind of avoiding it, they're probably oppressing themselves because this technology will be introduced into common everyday life. um and I know this confidently because how many people are using Apple iPhone? A lot. And Apple iPhone is going to be refreshed with a generative AI, Siri, not by name change, but by the backend ChatGPT. And if everyone that has an iPhone starts using Siri, but it's backed in by a generative AI, they're just going to start adopting it. And again, they probably won't even recognize themselves as using AI, but eventually the adoption will happen, is my opinion. And so the ones that are really flocking to it and testing out every nook and cranny of the AIs that are out there, and even beyond that, the ones that are working on creating AI, in my opinion, they're really the innovators pioneering the future of our technology solutions when it comes to AI. And the ones that are not using it really, really, really should be encouraged to try it out, install a free version, and be surprised what you'll get back. Even in the sense that AI is a reasoning engine where you can have a natural conversation versus it being just a search engine pulling back internet results that you have to sift through and find the good meat and potatoes of the details that you're searching for.
You know, whenever I have conversations with people about the topic of generative AI, there's this hesitation, and some people have, oh, this is just the, the latest new technology fad type of a thing. I'd argue that this is not just the newest technology fad. And I always encourage people, look, if you're uncertain, unsure, pop up a free ChatGPT account and just start having a conversation with this chatbot like it's another human. That alone is going to break people's brains because they're going to start to peel back layers of the onion and think, okay, hold on, how does it know that? Well, tell me more. Tell me more. And there's small business owners that I work with, and I just tell them that exact thing. And then I check in on them months later, and they're like, oh my God, it's become my new best friend. I've actually named it. And we go back and forth. We talk about marketing and building my business. It is such an incredibly powerful tool that far too many people are sitting on, and they're going to get left behind. It's going to take way too long for them to ramp up. So anybody that's watching or listening, just go try it out. Have a conversation with a chatbot, and anything that you are struggling with in life and or business, ask it the question. The response is going to blow your mind. And yes, it's going to take some tweaking and adjusting and things like that before you deliver it or execute on it. But it's going to change your life. And all you got to do is open up a free ChatGPT account.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right.
You know, another thing, I'm going to go on a little bit of, you know what, I'm just going to take you down a tangent and see where this unfolds because everybody's getting, or a lot of people are getting excited about, oh my gosh, okay, this is cool, this is cool, this is so much better than just a Google search. But there's something that many people are not aware of, and that is the massive consumption of energy associated with using ChatGPT or any sort of generative AI solution. And I saw some information recently, like a single query of ChatGPT uses like 10, 11x the amount of energy of a Google search. And so when you see people that are like, oh, energy consumption, energy is a big issue, and yes, it very much is, these generative AI data centers are just behemoths whenever it comes to energy consumption. And we're going to have to figure out how do we address the energy issue going forward. So whenever I kind of talk through all of that, what goes through your mind?
No, that's such a that is such a good question. I don't know that I have really dug too deep into the energy consumption use of AI. I can imagine it's quite significant, and when you bring this up, it reminds me of some studies that I learned about our CO2 footprint and just sending emails, like sending a thank you response to an email that doesn't necessarily require the thank you as a response. It does increase our carbon footprint as individual humans. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't have a lot of context around what the energy use is, but I already know that we've already had concerns around data center and energy and power usage. And truthfully, there's already concerns within American politics about our critical infrastructure and sustaining, for reducing carbon footprint and for building out future and emerging technologies to keep us as Americans ahead during cyber warfare. So yeah, I don't have a lot of expertise in that space, but it is something I'm aware of that it does create quite a footprint, and that's something I think people that are in the data center spaces are really going to have to lean in with their expertise and help us as pioneers of technology as we develop AI and machine learning capabilities that, we're actually creating the infrastructure to the best use for the planet and the resources that we have. So yeah, I don't know that I have a whole lot of opinion on that, just other than that's something that we have to take into consideration as infrastructure gets built out.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to become an increasingly difficult challenge to navigate. And I have no doubt that people are already using AI to help solve some of those
Yeah,
problems
I
that
bet
the
you're
AI
right.
is actually creating. So
Yeah,
let's talk.
AI is probably helping create a business plan for how data center providers reel this in and make the best use of their power and water sources.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about women in technology. This is part of a Women in Leadership series, and we've had a number of women that are CEOs and CIOs and CHROs on the show. But I always am keen to hear the story because whenever we look at various fields and or industries, usually women will find themselves in fields related to people, and we think human resources and teaching and operations and things like that. Men predominantly find themselves in STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, manufacturing, and things like that. Now, that's not to say, obviously, you don't see people flipping sides for that because we're all individuals and we're all unique. But tell me a little bit about your story of being a woman and then pursuing a career in technology. Like, where did that start?
Okay, yeah, this one we can go down all kinds of rabbit holes too. So if I get too distracted, reel me back in. So let me just take a step back and share a little bit about how I got into technology, and then I can share with you some of the challenges that I have overcome, but then also some of the things that we still continue to face as women in tech and women in leadership. So let me just say, I started in technology at 18 years old. I was 3 months post graduated high school, and I did not see myself as a technologist. I went to a couple of career fairs, and I was just exploring different industries and careers, and trying to understand, where my place would be in life. At that time, I was a runaway teen mom. I was about 16, 17 years old. I grew up with a really, really horrible childhood experience. Most of my childhood, I was living in condemned housing or homeless and floating from place to place all over Southwest Missouri. So super, super unstable, didn't have access to technology. In high school, that was the greatest exposure that I had to technology. And it was my senior year. It was a typing class. And so, on the QWERTY keyboard, throwing a towel over my hands and taking typing tests. And so that was to the extent of what my tech knowledge and experience was. But I just knew by such a young age that I did not want to grow up and live life homeless or in poverty. And so I basically became an adult at 16 whenever I exited my family and went out on my own. And so, because I had all of those different scenarios happening in my environment, it really led me to thinking really deeply, like, how do I actually go into the world and be a provider for not only myself but now my infant son that I am taking responsibility for. And so that led me to the career fairs. That career fair led me to a number of different booths of employers. One of them was a fintech company, but whenever I stopped and talked to them, truthfully, I couldn't see my reflection in that employer's booth because the employee reps were businessmen in suits and ties. And as soon as I asked them about what their company did, they started speaking to me in technology jargon. And as a 16, 17-year-old that had no exposure to it, and also dealt with a tremendous amount of imposter syndrome because of my childhood experience. I was like, I don't know what you're saying. This is not for me. I'm not going to waste your time and energy. And I walked away from the booth and just left it there. I ended up over at a daycare center's booth, and that one seemed to kind of jive with me. And, the traditional women go into this and guys go into this, and that kind of made sense that, hey, I got a baby and I'm a young woman and maybe I need to be in child development. So I started pursuing that path, and I landed a kind of a cool opportunity where I could take my baby to work with me. And so I would work at a daycare after high school, and then me and my baby would go to work in the evening and take care of other babies. But I started realizing that like that wasn't my only purpose in life. My purpose was greater than just being a mother or being a caregiver. And I sensed that, and I still had these aspirations to being a provider and getting myself into income that allowed me to feel like I had financial health, and ultimately where I felt like I had security for my family, because I didn't experience that at all in my childhood. So all that to say, I kept doing some research over the course of my senior year, and I kept going back to this company, and they were locally headquartered to my rural small town community. And I had people around me telling me, like, seriously, try technology, because they knew my aspirations were, to provide for my family, to grow as a professional, to gain exposure, greater exposure than what I was given throughout my childhood, just based on the people that were around me. They weren't, they weren't, employees. They were bums in a sense, or drug addicts. And so like they weren't the role models that I was seeking in life. And so I really had a lot of aspirations to get into a professional setting, because I wanted to immerse myself with different quality of humans and learn. And so I ended up applying to Jack Henry, and they put me through a series of interviews, and I didn't get the job. And so it was super disappointing. But I guess I made a strong enough impression about what my human potentials and capabilities were, because a few months after that, they did call me and offer me a job. And so they had opened a second role. And I was apparently one of the finalists for the first. So they went ahead and offered me a job. So I land my job in tech at 18 years old, and I don't even know how to send a damn email. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Imagine being like a young person coming straight out of school, having to try to navigate life as an adult, and you land yourself in a tech company on a technical help desk where you're supposed to be in a tech position, but you don't even know how to connect with your colleagues to email them, or to inquire on how to do your job. It was super, super intimidating and super uncomfortable, but I had such determination in me to lead me and my son towards something greater than what I had experienced so far. And so I really leaned into that. I was positioned on the help desk. I was unlocking accounts for people and scheduling conference calls back in 2006 for our sales and marketing team. And that one position really exposed me to a lot in technology. And truthfully, when I landed the job, my motivation wasn't to become a technologist. I just didn't understand that that was within me at that time. I had to work through the hidden self of discovering that passion lied within me. And then I actually carried passion that led me to retaining the information. And so that help desk position exposed me to every aspect of our business, and that allowed me to understand all of these different technology areas, and it allowed me to build a lot of relationships, because I was internal facing, but I was taking phone calls. And so I got to small talk a lot, and I got to ask a lot of questions, and I really lived my life in a frame where I'm always curious and I like to learn from others. Everyone has different experiences and they carry different advice and wisdom. So I ask a lot of questions, and throughout my career, that's really how I've led myself into the senior leadership ranks of our company. is upskilling, asking a lot of questions, developing new skills, and exposing myself to emerging technologies like AI so that we can be the influencers that create the impact that ultimately we're kind of desiring to impact a bottom line or to drive new technology into the marketplace so that our customers want to buy it and use it. And so, I don't know that I've gotten straight to your point, Sean, but when it comes to being a woman in technology, no, I did not see myself there. I had to have some people encourage me that that was what I could do. And then once I did find myself there, truthfully, I've been surrounded by men my entire career and just a few women, but women definitely take interest and invest when they land themselves in a STEM field. But a lot of men have been truthfully allies and advocates and basically helping me understand my own capabilities, but helping other people that may have opportunities that my strengths can contribute to, helping them understand that there's this potential, there's this capability, and then, allowing me to raise my hand for work others have kind of turned down in order to secure different job opportunities. So, in the tech world, I have had the opportunity to rank up quite a few levels in a technical career path. And then, now over the last decade into technology and business leadership. So, did I answer your question? And what else should I hit on? Because there's a lot that we could talk about when it comes to women in tech and women in leadership. And so, is there anything specific that I should cover?
Yeah, no. So there's a few things that as you were sharing that came to mind for me. And one of those was how you found yourself in this technology job, not because you were a technologist, not because you were passionate about technology, but because you were following an opportunity. And it made me think about this quote from Mike Rowe, the guy from Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
And he said, don't focus on chasing your passion, chase the opportunity and bring your passion with you. And this is something that I spent the vast majority of my professional career in IT because I was passionate about the technology. And as you know, about 8 years ago, was given the opportunity to start leading human resources because it was an opportunity, not because I was passionate about people or HR, because I didn't really know anything about it. I was actually horrible when it came to people because I was an extreme introvert and I didn't know how to communicate with people. As I got into it, I developed a passion around people, around building and developing people and helping to lift them up and achieve the things that I know that they were capable of achieving, but maybe due to things earlier in life, maybe they couldn't see it in themselves. And that has become my passion. But I started in HR because I was chasing the opportunity. And I think that's something that more people need to focus on is, yes, your passion is important, but chase the opportunity first because it's going to unlock and open doors for things that you might not even know that you are passionate about. And when you do that, it can change your life.
Yeah, I love
Another,
that. You are so right.
yeah, so there's one other thing that came to mind, and that is the importance of mentors in our lives. We have we both have a mutual connection in somebody, and a gentleman named Rob Zelinka, who's been on the podcast before, and you clearly know Rob. What's so interesting about Rob, and I've shared this story a few times, but once I started to get a little bit more comfortable online and interacting with people, I started following leaders in technology. And I think Rob is like the epitome of leadership in technology. So I started following him on LinkedIn and engaging with his posts and engaging with his content and things like that. And it was just like all these things that he was putting out there. I was like, oh, wow, yes, yes, yes. And then a few years go by. And I had started getting to a point where I was starting to create a little bit of content on my own. I was at an Evanta CIO Inner Circle dinner, and I had stepped off to the side because I was having to, check my phone for, I don't know, something was going on in the business or something. And I'm looking down at my phone, and all of a sudden I hear this voice, "Hey, young man, I appreciate the things that you're doing." And I look up, and it was Rob. And I was just starstruck. My jaw dropped. I was like, and we had this just incredible conversation. We found out that we're both passionate about cars and have ZR1s, and like it was just this awesome conversation. And then we've stayed connected since then. But I think it is so vitally important that we find mentors in our lives. And the thing that's so wild about these mentors is they can have a profound impact on us without them even realizing it. And I think that's a testament to certain people that just put good and inspiration out into the world with the intent of lifting others up. I don't think they all truly comprehend how they are changing people's lives. But when somebody comes up to you and you see, like, hey, this person I respect, I admire, latch onto it and learn everything you can from them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, on the topic of women in tech and women in leadership, I do a lot of studies, and I sponsor Jack Henry and I. We sponsor women in tech community groups, and so as a result of that, we end up polling industry workers about their experience, whether they're male, female, or non-binary, and just consistently, our research data shows that women are seeking mentorship. They desire it. They want formal education and development opportunities, but they're not necessarily being positioned to getting that. So if you are an employer listening, and you're a leader and you have women in tech or women in leadership working for you, mentor them or make sure that they're connected to the mentorship program that's being offered, because truthfully, women are really seeking it. But something else, for us, just giving you the women's perspective, sometimes it's hard for us to say that we need that or that we want that, or it's hard to just ask for it. And so, to your point with Rob Zelinka, he does mentor me, and he gets me connected with other mentors. And so, he really wants to help make sure that the people that he's invested in are, developing and becoming well-rounded. And so he's very generous with his knowledge, his wisdom, and truthfully, his network of connections to help others develop and seize their opportunities. And so, just, my point ultimately is women and men both want mentorship and they need that advocacy, but there is industry data that women are not necessarily getting the same mentorship opportunities in technology that men are getting. And so, if you're interested, I'll share some workplace surveys with you, and you can dive into some of the industry results. But this is a recurring topic where, in these workforce surveys, where opportunities for growth and mentorship are constantly being highlighted as women want, need, and are seeking.
Yeah. And, one last thing that I want to kind of use this as an opportunity to segue into is keynote speaking. This is something that the vast majority of the population will never do. But I think for those of us that develop and build skills and the confidence to step on stage and share our story, to inspire and influence others, and hopefully mentor others from afar, it's something that I've started to see myself how important this is, because I was the introverted IT guy, petrified to talk in front of people. And now, whenever I meet people that have seen me speak or seen me lead panels or anything like that, they come up and they share how much what I said or the panel said, how much it inspired and influenced them. And I actually had a conversation recently with a lady that saw me speak about a month ago. And she opened up and started sharing a little bit about her story. And I was just listening to it. And at the end, she's like, I might have shared a little bit too much. And I said, no. Your story is yours. And one day, I'm going to challenge you to be able to share it with the world. And obviously, we don't want to share all the depths of our story, but if we can build that confidence to share just little bits of our story that other people can connect with, it can also change their lives because they can see she overcame that. He overcame that. If she did it, I can do it. And so that's something that I commend you for standing up on stages and giving keynotes and trying to inspire and influence others, because we need more people to do that.
You know what, Sean? Likewise, I've been listening to your podcast, and I get to see some of the clips of your talks and what you're able to post online. And you know what it's like to build keynotes that are truthfully storytelling. And our story is our authority. That's what we know best, and that's how, as a good keynote speaker, leaning into our story as our authority, that's how we come across so authentic and relatable. Even though it's unique to us, it becomes relatable to our audience and becomes motivating and inspiring and fuels them to keep going. And what it takes to create keynote talks, I know you know this because I listened to one of your recent interviews where the gentleman was, highlighting a conversation that you had just given a keynote at, and he was in the audience. And it's just, it can be very emotionally taxing as a keynote speaker to create your talks, and then to deliver them. And, to the extent that sometimes creating a keynote talk can be a form of like deep therapy. Like sometimes you shed some tears. You might be alone rehearsing it, and you think, am I going to get through this on stage? Because I can't keep my shit together in my own house, in my own office, and not having like these emotional reactions. But for whatever reason, I feel like once I get on stage, I'm very intentional about inflicting like an emotional experience for my audience, but I don't leave them on a low. I bring them up and down and up and down and end on a high. But it does, keynote speaking is really fun for me. I don't know that I had the vision of being this type of communicator 5 years ago. But what I did learn is, as I wanted to advance into the executive ranks of corporate America, it was very clear to me I resonated with the role models in leadership that spoke well. The ones that didn't fumble their words, the ones that seemed to speak authentically, that were confident in what they were speaking about. They were more trusting, more authentic. And so I kind of gravitated to, I want to be like that. And I've also learned from my executive mentors, the best communicators are the ones that tend to succeed the furthest, up a corporate ladder. It's just a key characteristic and skill set that if you want to be an executive or a leader that influences at a great scale and impact, you have to be a good communicator. But even beyond that, you have to be a good storyteller. And I think that I really enjoy that about Rob Zelinka is he's a phenomenal storyteller. And so I learn a lot from him. He coaches me. But even for me to get to where I feel I am today in keynote speaking, I'll tell you, when I first started, I would literally get ready to go on stage, and the 3 minutes leading up to it, I was behind stage probably throwing up. Like my emotions just introvert, at the time, and I had to really push myself out of a lot of comfort zones, be really uncomfortable. I'm super proud to tell you that I don't throw up anymore. It feels super easy. I feel super confident going into a keynote talk now, but it does help, having a few signature talks that I've rehearsed or I've delivered over and over so that the emotions are already in check. But yeah, to your point, it is not easy to be a keynote speaker for a variety of different reasons, but it is really, really meaningful, and I really do enjoy it. To your point, the best part about keynote speaking is the connections and the conversations that follow it. And it's knowing, the few stories that we do get to hear, because not everyone comes forward and says what influence we've had on them. But the few stories that we do get to hear, that's really the purpose. That's the greatest purpose, is that someone can feel motivated and inspired and fueled and hopeful to just keep going another day in whatever it is their pursuit is.
Man, everything that you were just talking about resonated with me beyond belief. And that speech that I gave a month ago, that was the most challenging and taxing speech I have ever given, because I went to a deep place about my why, who I am, why I am so driven, and the things that happened in my childhood. And before that speech, there was no curtain for me to hide behind, but people were starting to get a little bit worried. Is Sean going to be okay? One of the guys who kind of organizes and manages the event, he came over to me. He's like, you all right? You need a hug, or like what's going on here? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I got up on stage, and because I had practiced and I had rehearsed, I just hit my stride and started rolling through it. Now, there were still moments in the speech where I got a little bit choked up and had to move through it faster than I anticipated. The reason I gave the speech in December of 2024 is because I needed to move through this to move into the next season of my life. And it was a turning point for me. But what I didn't anticipate was the amount of people afterwards that were coming up to me and hugging me and tearing up and crying. And one lady even said, this is exactly what I needed to hear. I'm going to go have a conversation with my boss right now. I'm leaving. I'm going to go do something else. And I was like, no. That was not the intent of the speech, for you to quit your job. But it speaks to how important it is for us to get real and raw and vulnerable and share our stories, because that's what connects us with other people in the world, and building and developing skills around sharing your story and connecting with others. I firmly believe that is going to become increasingly important as we lean into more and more adoption of technology and AI in this digital and virtual world. People are going to crave that human interaction and connection. So I love that you are encouraging people to build those communication skills. That is just vitally important. I cannot stress it enough. So thank you for all of the things that you are doing in that space. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before we kind of wrap things up?
Um, I think we have covered a lot of ground here. The last piece I think that I'll just kind of round out our topics is when it comes to keynote speaking for any aspiring communicators and leaders and influencers, I think AI is another great tool. And so I just want to bring us back to a little bit of the AI, tying it back into keynote speaking. I leverage AI a lot to kind of shore up my talks and make sure that I'm getting to concise speaking points. To your earlier points, we can't go into the whole entire depths of our experience and stories in such short time frames. So it's really important that we're hitting the top three principles of what the story gets to. And I've just found that AI is a significant tool to get us there faster when it comes to crafting content and making sure that it's a meaningful message with the storytelling wrapped into it, of course. Yeah, but nonetheless, I think I'll wrap this up with encouraging everyone that might be listening to share your story, because you don't know who you might be impacting. And no, it doesn't have to be, you become a professional keynote speaker, but in a one-on-one connection, to your point, human connection is so critical, and that's how we're going to continue to do well. And so encourage people to connect with others, mentor others, share your wisdom, share your story, because you might not know the actual impact that you have on someone else in the world. And I think there's a lot of power in that. So be a good person, be a good human, and the ripples of good energy really it's invaluable what that impact is. But it definitely has an impact on the people and the people that they go interact with.
Thank you for all the incredible things that you are doing. How might someone contact you if they are looking for a little bit of guidance and mentorship or just an incredible connection?
Oh, you're so awesome. I would love for people to connect with me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is Simoriah with Sim in parentheses Stogner. And so you should be able to search me pretty easily that way. I think I look like my profile picture mostly with a recent haircut, but mostly you should be able to find me on that way. And I really would love for people to connect with me, shoot me a message, let me know that you heard the conversation, and then let's have a conversation ourselves. I would love to have that. So
All right, I appreciate it. For all of you listening or watching, we will have her contact information in the show notes down below. Here's the thing. I think this episode has taught us how important it is for us to lean into leveraging technology and know it's not going to displace us. It's going to ultimately end up helping us become a better version of ourselves so that we can help others become a better version of themselves. Also, learn how to effectively communicate. If you can't make and hold eye contact, if you stutter, fumble your words, these are all skills and you can learn how to be better at it. Ultimately, that's why we're here, to lift and inspire others to become the best versions of themselves. That is all we have for the show today. Thank you so much, and y'all have a good one.